Why does generations matter to me? I was about 16, 17 years old when I first got the chance to see Pastor Alex preach, and I was in California. And as he's ministering, as he's speaking, I just remember I was sitting actually in the back in the booth, and I was getting to run slides. And while I was running slides, he's preaching, and he's preaching right at me, and I felt the call on my life to preach. Came to the altar, he prayed for me. He saw something in a 16-year-old broken kid. Not only that, then I move here. I literally get dropped at not your doorstep, let's be fair. Mita and Lewis's doorstep. They take me in. 21 years old, broken, messed up. And another family at this church believed in what God had put in me. Not knowing what would happen from there and the things that God would take me on, the journeys that God would take me on. But why do I believe in generations? Because not only those times of being 17, 21, and even today, how God has used me to speak into so many other students' lives, but while I was here, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, 23, 24 years old. And I remember Mama Juana comes up to me. She said, "I'll never be your mom. But if you ever need a hug of a mom, I got you." That was another moment in my life where I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. But after that day, I was like, I think I can do one more. So generations matter because if you can believe in them when they're young, if you can give them an opportunity, give them a chance to use what God has given them, I believe and I've seen throughout my life how God has used different people throughout the story of my life, the people that are here today, the people that have built and been a part of what God is doing here to allow me to be here today, to speak into my life, to give me hope, to give me direction. So today, when I thought about today, what can I speak about today? I thought of this divine direction. What does that look like, and how do we follow God in the midst of so much that's happening? And I'm going to be reading out of Luke 19, verses 28. And before I get there, as I started thinking about today, I started thinking about not too long ago, maybe a few years ago, my wife, she made a mistake and said, "Can you go to the store after work?" Why is that a mistake? I'll tell you. Well, after work, for whatever reason, if you've ever been shopping, one of the biggest things I'll tell you never to do is go shopping when you're hungry. You ever hungry shop? Yeah, there's some witnesses in the house today. Yeah, she's telling me, after work, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go to the store. I made the first mistake, hungry shopping. The second mistake is I went to Walmart. Yeah. See, you know what I'm talking about. I went to Walmart, and I'm looking, and as I get there, I don't know why, but I just have this normal journey throughout Walmart that I normally go through. I went for one thing. She's like, "Hey, I'm going to make spaghetti. Can you just get spaghetti sauce?" But I went to the back first. And I was like, you know what? I've got 4 kids, y'all, so you can pray. If there's a list of prayers that you want to pray for, that's one of them, 4 kids. And they drink milk like crazy. Like, if anyone's selling a cow after today, that would be an investment I would be interested in because we just go through milk that much. I'm in the back, I get milk. And I got bougie kids too, so we got regular milk, and then we get almond milk on top of that. We can't just get regular milk. So I get a bunch of milk, throw it in there. Then we go through the cookies. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be a good dad. I'm gonna get cookies, and I'm gonna get cookies for every kid. And they all have different tastes. You can't just eat one cookie. And then, I'm on this like health kick. So I'm like, I'm gonna get them cookies, but I'm gonna get me cookies, the thin ones. The small ones. And you think it's healthy, but you eat the whole bag and it's no longer healthy anymore, but you're like speaking to yourself that I made a healthy decision and therefore I'm doing healthy things, so it's okay. And I keep going through the aisles, and man, every time I see something, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna get that, and I'm gonna get that. Then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be a good spouse. I'm gonna get my wife her ice cream. Yeah, mint chip. She's a mint chip fan. Amen. There's some witnesses in the house today. Mint chip. I throw that in there. And I'm like, I'm so happy. I can't wait to get home. I've got fruit. I got a bunch of things. And I can't wait to get home. Because I'm going to show her. Look what your husband just did. I put it all in the trunk. I put it all in the bags. And I'm like, there's a rule. Like, it's not a written rule, but there's a rule. Like, if you're going to take all the bags from the trunk to the house, you do it all in one trip. You know, I don't know who wrote the rule, but there's a rule. So you start like putting all the bags up one arm till that loses circulation, right? Then you know you're ready for the next arm. You start putting it up with that arm and putting it over all the way down, and you finally get in the house, and now I'm carrying it in, right? And I got a swag to me because I can't wait to tell my wife to say, praise you, Joe, for all that you have done. And I'm carrying them in. Drop them down. She looks at me. She looks at the bags. She looks back at me, looks back at the bags, and said, where's the sauce? Yo, I forgot it. See, I had an assignment that I was sent to do. But I forgot what I went there for. Why? Because I got caught up in a lot of good things. I got caught up in a lot of good things that I was going to get. But I missed what I was sent there for. And I think the problem with so many people, on a day like today when we're talking about graduation, a day like today when we're talking about life and stages and moving on, is I think so many people forget you have an assignment. That God puts you here for a reason, for a purpose. You are not here by accident. That God has an assignment for your life. And if you can stay focused on the assignment and not get so caught up in a lot of good things. But there's a problem. There's a problem of listening to directions because direction means submission. And we don't like submission. Submission saying, I trust you, God. When I trust him, I'm declaring he is Lord. What does Lord mean? I'm so glad you asked. Lord means someone or something having power and authority or influence over. See, everyone's like, yeah, I got an assignment. I got purpose. Yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Jesus. Oh, I've got to listen? I was cool with the assignment. I was cool with the purpose, but I don't know if I'm down with having to listen, having to follow directions because I'm good with knowing that I have a purpose and a reason for being here, but I don't know if I want to trust anyone. Why? Because trust is tricky. Trust is tricky. Like, I got trust issues. People always be telling me like, oh, I got some good Mexican food in Lancaster. I'm like, where? I'm from Cali. And I'm like, where? I got trust issues. I grew up in the 90s. I got trust issues when people say, I got good music. Where? Because I grew up in a time when we did have good music. Yeah. Generations. I'm talking about that Brian McKnight. I'm talking about that Montel Jordan. That Casey and JoJo. See, you got some sinners in here. You better pray for your church. Turn to Luke. They're like, yay. Yeah, Tupac, let's go. Jesus. I grew up in a time when there was great TV shows. Amazing TV shows. Like you were waiting for the next week to come out when Family Matters would drop another one. And you got Urkel and Stephen Urkel and amazing things. And you got A Different World in living color. I'm talking about the Wayans brothers and one of the best shows of all time, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Some amazing times. And I had some amazing superheroes. See, we didn't grow up in a time with fancy movies. No, we had comic books and cartoons with X-Men and Batman, Captain Planet, he's our hero. He's going to turn, you learn about pollution, y'all, and you were talking about a hero. You're recycling and learning about this hero in your life. And every time I'd watch a TV show, all of a sudden I would turn into that character. All of a sudden, I'm fighting the pillows and the cushions inside of my living room who are coming to attack my home because I'm on defense and I am going to save my family from every evil thing that is out there to get my family. Well, one day, we lived in a trailer and there was watching a TV show and it was Superman. And Superman could do something that I thought I could do. Superman could fly. So I'm like, I bet all I need is some good speed on me, a good jump distance, and I'll fly. I bet I could do it. I get on the top of my trailer. I got some distance. My cousin, he had a little more sense and he's like, yo, what if you don't fly? Ye of little faith. So we go grab like the mattress from our bed and put it out in front. And I get back and I take off and I take off and I fly and I jump and I'm jumping and I'm in the air, I'm flying for at least 3 seconds. And then all of a sudden I'm falling and I realize me and my cousin are terrible at math. Because we didn't calculate the fact that I would jump and I would run and I would get over the mattress. And now I'm falling and I slam down and I hurt myself. It was at that moment that I lost trust. And although we're laughing here, some of you had similar moments like that. Where you jumped in love and you thought this was love, you thought this was the thing, you thought this was the one, and you jumped and you fell and boom, you got hurt. You went and you were like, this is the business. I'm going to start it. I'm going to go and I'm going to get, everything's going to be great. I'm going to move and it's going to keep on growing. And you jumped. An economy hurt you. Oh, this is the amazing church. I love this church. This is a great place. So many amazing people. And then you found out people are people everywhere. And boom, you hurt. I've got trust issues. How do I follow a God when I don't know if I can trust him? Today I want to talk about a group of people who were trusting Jesus with their life, what they did, how they did it, and how they kept on moving. Today I want to talk to you out of an idea of divine direction. Opening up our Bibles to Luke 19:28 through 31. Luke 19:28. Luke 19:28 says this. After telling this story, Jesus went on towards Jerusalem, walking ahead of his disciples. And as he came to the towns of Bethphage and Bethany on the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 disciples ahead. He said, go into the village over there, he told them. As you enter it, you will see a donkey tied there. No one has ever ridden it. Untie it, bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it, say, the Lord needs it. The Lord needs it. I got to stop there. We're going to keep on reading and we're going to keep on going through this. But I think sometimes we read scriptures and automatically we jump to conclusions. One of the conclusions we can jump to is when Jesus speaks, automatically there's people who should hear them and should listen. But I read it and I have a lot of questions. Like if Jesus is telling me, hey, go into the city, go into there, untie, you're going to find a donkey, untie that and go, I've got some questions because you didn't give me a lot of details. It would be similar to me saying, hey, go into town, you're going to see a Tesla, a brand new Tesla. I just want you to go over there, grab the car, take it out of that lot, and keep on driving. And when the person says, hey, what are you doing? Say, don't worry, Joe has need of it. You're not cool with that. Some of you might be cool with that, and you need prayer right after service. But others of you have questions before I get to the conclusion of the matter. Some of you might think, what is this guy doing? Is this guy crazy? Because I don't have all the details. But I love that the disciples, despite not having all the details, despite not having the entire story complete, is they didn't need to know completely in order to follow Jesus immediately. They didn't need to know completely in order to follow Jesus immediately. See, they heard him speak, and when they heard him speak, despite what felt outrageous, they obeyed. If you're going to write notes today, I want you to write the first note. This is, we obey despite what feels outrageous. Obey despite what feels outrageous. Why? Because there's going to become times in your life when God's going to do something that's going to challenge the way you feel, challenge the way you think about things. To better understand this, I got to show you a picture of my family really quick. This is my family. There's the little one at the end. He has a cute little smile, but trust me, right now, kid ministry is figuring out how to deal with him. And my beautiful wife, my oldest one, you won't recognize him if you see him today because he looks way different. This was just a year ago, and they're just already looking different. But this is my family, and the reason why I wanted to show you a picture of my family is because I want to tell you a story about our family. One day, we go to the zoo, and while we're at the zoo, I grew up in California, and we didn't have a lot, we didn't experience a lot. We didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't go to a lot of zoos. So every time I'm at a zoo, I'm like reading every plaque. I want to know about all the animals. Like, I'm not a big animal fan. Like, I don't like them living with me, but I'm okay with them living there. You know, like, no, you're cool. It's cool, whatever. That's my problem. But I love learning all about them. So I'm going through each exhibit, and I'm reading all about all these animals, and there's really cool animals. And then I stumble upon one animal. This animal has an interesting name, and it was called the African impala. The reason why this animal is so interesting to me is because, once again, I grew up in California. The only impala I know is this one. So when I read a plaque that says the African impala and I see this animal that looks different, I've got some questions. Because the thing that's holding this animal back from me and my family is about a 4-foot fence. And I'm looking at this animal, and you would look at this animal and you're like, oh, he's so cute. I look at this animal and think, those horns are going to kill me. Like those are weapons on the top of that guy's head. And why is that guy so close to us? Like, there's only about an 8-foot gap between me and them, about a 4-foot fence. But I read on about the animal. And when I read on about the animal, I find out the African impala has the ability to jump 10 feet high. I look down at the plaque, I look at the animal, and I start counting the animals. There's a lot of them. There's only 5 of us, and so I have to start thinking, which one of my kids do I really want to keep? Stop it. You do the same thing. Don't lie to me. In fact, kids, after this, ask your parent who the favorite kid is. I'm just kidding. But, because that's the one they're going to save. 10 foot high. Look up, 4-foot fence. Animal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. African impala can jump 10 feet high and 20 feet across. I look at the 8-foot divide between me and the animal. I look at the 4-foot fence between me and the animal, and I look back at the animal. And at this point, I think the zoo just put me in a situation that's going to risk my entire family's life. Like, why did they just put us in danger? Why did they put us in the circumstance? Do they know this animal, although it looks cute from afar, this animal has weapons on the top of its head? Does somebody, zoologist, what happened to this situation right now? But as I kept reading, I found out that the African impala, although it can jump 10 feet high and 20 feet across, it will not jump where it will not know where it's going to land. So it's kept in captivity because it does not have the faith to jump across what it cannot see. That what's in front of him, it's keeping him and stopping him from the ability to escape the situation and circumstance they're in because they don't have the faith to get beyond this moment. If you catch on, it'll go quicker. But the fact of the matter is, the problem is so many of us need the details of what's on the other side that we limit ourselves from jumping over to say, God, I want to experience all that you have, but I don't know what's in front of me. In fact, my feelings start putting me in the direction of my life instead of my faith. I don't feel like it today. I don't know if I feel like going to church. I don't know if I feel like going into this next season. I don't know if I feel like being in this relationship. I don't know if I feel like being involved in more groups. I don't know if I feel like giving. I don't know if I feel, and we're so led by our feelings that we are kept captive in our circumstances because we are unwilling to step out in the faith that God is calling us in. Because many of us want it to make sense. But the problem is if it made sense, would it be faith? So then the second problem that they get themselves in is they first see the outrageous thing that Jesus is asking them to be involved in and asking them to do. The second thing they do is in verses 19, verses 32 to 34, the next separate verses, it says this. So they went and found the colt just as Jesus had said. And sure enough, as they were untying it, the owners asked them, "Why are you untying that colt?" And the disciples simply replied, "The Lord needs it." So they went and found the colt that Jesus told them about, and said, "Hey, there's going to be a colt up ahead. I want you to go and tie it." And exactly what he said would happen, happened. But just because he said it would happen, didn't make the obstacle easy. See, I think you not only have to obey despite what seems outrageous, but I think you have to obey despite the obstacles. Obey despite the obstacles. See, Jesus already predicted this would happen, but just because he predicted it would happen didn't make it easy. Because he predicted a lot of things would happen. In fact, your life, he says this, "Do you not remember what I told you? A slave is no greater than the master. Since they persecuted me, naturally they will persecute you." He's giving you ideas that you are going to go through things and situations and seasons inside of your life. And yet sometimes we get to those situations and we wonder, "God, where are you?" He doesn't guarantee a perfect life. He doesn't guarantee everything's going to be easy. In fact, he guarantees you're going to go through some obstacles. You're still going to leave here, go to your family function on 4th of July and still have drama. You're going to go back to work, and the person who says they hate drama is still going to be the person in your life that's giving you drama. You're going to start your diet today, and tomorrow Wise is going to have buy one cookie, have 20 free. Some of you are going to go, and doctors are going to give you the heartbreaking diagnosis that you were hoping that wouldn't happen. Why? Because he's promised us that we will go through things, but the problem is, it's not the problems in which we face. See, the enemy says God said that the enemy comes, he's the thief that comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But I came that you might have life. And the enemy knows if he can't get to your heart with obstacles, he'll get to your head with your thoughts. Sometimes the biggest obstacles inside of our life are not the obstacles that we face inside of our life, but the obstacles we face inside of our head. To give you a better illustration, understanding of what I'm talking about is this is many of you. I'm going to drop this, and tech team's going to get mad at my life, so I'm trying to be careful with this. But for you, this is many of you, and you're going through life, and as you're going through life, you get hit with different things, like bad diagnosis. Some of you are going through life, and you get hit with a thought of, "I don't know if I can get out of this. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this. I don't know if I can get through this situation. I don't know if I want to keep on going. I don't want to keep," and the thoughts of, "I want to give up. I don't know if I want this life, but I want a different life, and their life looks better than my life. And all of a sudden, things become dark and murky, and things in your life start looking hard to see. How can I see beyond this point? Why? Because I have all these thoughts of giving up, these thoughts of wanting to quit, thoughts of wanting to put in the towel, thoughts of, I don't know if I want to keep on going anymore. I don't want to keep on doing what I'm doing anymore. I just want to quit. But despite the whispers of the enemy that tell you to give up, you've got God's word that tells you to keep on going. And no matter how much pours out, you've got to keep on going. But the problem is people go and they're like, Pastor, nothing changed. I went to church once and nothing happened. I went to that Bible study you told me to go to and nothing quits. But you can't just stop there. You got to keep on going and say, no, I'm going to keep on sticking with this. I'm going to keep on going through this. That even though there's rough times, even though there's situations, I'm going to keep on going. That God, I'm going to keep on letting you pour in. And when you pour in, I'm going to pour out. And until something changes and unlocks in my life, I'm going to keep on going and I'm going to keep on enduring. That God, I'm going to keep on following you. Times are going to get tough. Times are going to get hard, but I'm going to keep on following you. And all of a sudden what begins to happen is there begins to slowly become changed. Little by little, God begins to change you. It doesn't become perfect. It doesn't become see-through. But what happens is now I can see through the darkness inside of my life. Why? Because God's word kept pouring in. Because God kept pouring in my life. But you can't give up. You've got to listen to God's word, the witnesses of other believers around you, the whispers that God speaks to you, and the world that God created for you. God has word that he wants to give you. He's constantly speaking. The problem is, are you listening? Are you willing to hear him? Are you willing to keep on going? That despite the situations I'm going through, I will trust you, Jesus. But the Bible says, if you keep on reading, as they're going through this moment of trusting in Jesus, in verses 38, they start saying, blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory to the highest. And in verse 39, some of the Pharisees among the crowd said, teacher, rebuke your followers, saying things like that. See, the reason why they wanted him to rebuke them was because they didn't see him as a Messiah or king. These men would preach about him, a coming Messiah who would establish a new kingdom. They would know about a prophetic word like in Zechariah 9:9 that declared, here he comes riding on a donkey. They would preach about a God who would come, but they would not anticipate the God that was right before them. See, they missed it. Why? Because they didn't get the outcome that they desired, therefore they left too early. See, I need to obey despite the obstacles, but I need to also obey despite the outcome. Me and my wife were having our second baby, and while we were having our second baby, 2 months before she would be giving birth to our baby, the doctors call us to the hospital. She feels like the baby's not moving. Call us to the hospital. And they let us know the baby passed away. So it took us some time to get up the courage to say, let's try one more time. And finally we started. And we're going to have our rainbow baby. We were so excited about the baby. We were so excited. I was praying every day over my wife and the baby that would come. And we're praying. And then all of a sudden, I ended up going out to be at a church in St. Louis. And while I was there, my wife texted me and says, I think the baby's coming today. And I joked, no way. It's too soon. Little did I know that our rainbow baby that we were about to have, she starts having him at home because he comes so fast. On the way to the hospital, he passes, but they were able to resuscitate him at the hospital. And for 4 months, we spent time in the NICU. The baby that they said would never get out of there, would never make it out. One day, the doctor's pushing on the baby's stomach and to prove a point of saying, look, he's either going to be dead or brain dead. She first pinches his foot, and the baby's foot retracts. She says, that's odd. I wasn't expecting that. Then she pushes on his stomach and says, see, look, he should respond by squirming, and I'm going to push on his stomach, and nothing's going to happen. And she pushes, and all of a sudden, he begins to squirm. And when the doctor said he'd be dead or brain dead, 4 months later, we were able to take him out of the NICU, and today, you saw a picture of him today. He's 7 years old. But it's never been easy. In fact, a year and a half ago, we were finding out that he was going to lose his teeth. And because he was spending most of his time on his back, which should have been a celebratory moment, became a moment of frustration for me. I'm like, God, you said you were going to give us this miracle, God, and now we've got to go through this. And I remember I was just so frustrated. I left the house, and when I came back, my wife looked at me and said, what's wrong? I was just mad. I'm just frustrated. I feel like we should be in a different situation. We prayed. Every day I put hands on your stomach, praying and believing that God would do something amazing. That God would give us this blessing, that God would give us this miracle. And now this. And she said, you're right. But what if? What if this life for him was given to us that it might change us, and the next life is for him? What if it wasn't about what God was doing to us, but rather what God would want to do in us, that would change us, that would make us different people, that despite the outcome, we would trust him and say, God, no matter what it is you have us for, no matter what it is in front of us, no matter what we're going to go through, God, I'll trust you. God, I'll trust you, that no matter what situation you're in, no matter what happens, that God, trust you. See, what I didn't realize, what God was more worried about what was happening in me. Lisa Turkhurst, in a book called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, said it like this: sometimes in order for you to get your life back, you have to face the death of what you thought your life would look like. See, they missed God who was right with them because he didn't show up the way they wanted him to. And if God is here to serve your needs, he's no longer God, your God. And the moment he's God is the moment that I surrender everything to him to say, God, no matter what happens, no matter what you do, I'll obey. But that means sometimes in life, you've got to be like a palm tree. What? See, I was in Miami. And in Miami, they had hurricanes. And there wasn't a lot of trees that endured the hurricanes. But there was one tree that no matter what came, and the reason why was because the tree, but it wouldn't break. See, the subfield would allow it the ability. See, the thing that was put inside of him. See, the thing that it was created for. See, the purpose in which it was intended to live through was that no matter the storms, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, no matter the things that life would throw at it, that the storms of life could rage, the wind could come, the hurricane could come by, but no matter what, the palm tree would bend, but it wouldn't break. See, what it had to get to a point was say, I was made for this. I was made for this. The circumstances of life that I've been going through, I was made for this. I'm going through a hard time right now, but I was made for this. I know it hurts. I know I'm crying, but I was made for this. The substance in which it was created allowed it the ability that no matter what it went through, it could stand. So when Paul tells me, when you've done all that you can to stand, stand firm. I'm telling you, there's been storms, but the obedience were the ingredients that I needed so that when the winds came, see, all the Pharisees that were the fair weather friends, that when the wind came, he said, how dare you say this is him? He didn't come to serve us. He didn't come to do anything. He was supposed to do all these things for us, and he didn't show up the way I wanted him to. He was supposed to come in and wage war. He was supposed to come in and make my political agenda happen. He was supposed to come in and do it the way I wanted to do it, and he didn't. He showed up humble, meek, loving, but still with the authority of the Lord. Say, not only did he have to walk through people who doubted him, but he stood his own test of time. And while on the cross, he's still doing ministry, because even though it hurt, he understood my obedience is not for the outcome of what I want. It's for the outcome of what he created me for. So God, if you can use anything, use me. When I feel like giving up, God, use me. When the wind comes, God, use me. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, but I will say he is. And he's worth it if you follow him. Our son is not perfect in world stands, but he's perfect for us. And what God has taught me along the journey is that sometimes God does miracles and we miss the miracles because the miracle didn't look like the way you thought it should. So 7 years later, I get to hold my miracle. The one that the doctor said wouldn't make it out. The one that they said it would be dead or brain dead. The one they said would never make it today. I don't know what you're thinking about. I don't know what God's brought you through, but I know he's brought you here. And the fabrics of life that has entwined itself inside of you is what you've been made for. And today is about stepping into divine destiny. That you might follow his divine direction for your life. With heads bowed and eyes closed, I want to pray with you. God, you're so good. Because when I needed this church to be a family, it was called Family Life. And then when you took me on a journey, you used this same church to bring community around me, to bring people around me, to bring preaching in my life that would help me to endure, to help me go. That God, you surrounded me with people, and you've given me your word as a guide and as a lamp unto my feet, as a light into my path. And there's been many times that I've said, God, I don't know if I can keep on going, and yet, God, you have encouraged. You've brought amazing people and things inside of my life. And now I can stand here and say, not because I'm good, but because you're good. I'm made for this. But God, I can keep on going because I know you created in me, you created for me a purpose beyond the pain that I'm experiencing. God, in seasons of hopelessness, you brought in hope. Let me not miss out on the moments that you were there. Let me not like the people in the story who miss out that you are Lord, God. That God, you have been with us, been before us, and promised to continue with us. So today, give us divine direction, that we might keep pursuing the destiny that you have called us for. God, I thank you. We worship you. In your name I pray.